When I give a handshake, I'm not the first to let go, and I squeeze the out of it. What I've noticed is that when I do that, they squeeze even harder, and then it becomes a gridlock.
This is a little bit of a hot take.
Oh my God, what are you gonna say?
Harnessing your sensuality.
Her. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, Allah.
You have to believe in yourself. You just have to work on it, and if you focus on it, then you will get to it, and you will get the promotion, and you will get the money, and then you will get everything and you want in your life, and God bless you.
Welcome to Wow.
Hey everyone,
Welcome to Wow. What's up, womanhood? Guess who got promoted, everyone?
Oh, drum roll. It was me. It was me.
We love money.
So today's episode, it's only fitting to talk about promotions.
Yes.
We're going to do a whole Corporate Rizz series because I think both of us have a lot of really great corporate experience.
I feel so out right now.
Are you okay?
Sorry, guys. I just did some.
No.
We've been through a lot of corporate structures and corporate teams. I've been in international teams in the US, so I can compare it a little bit there. But what I haven't done is get promoted internally yet because I've been kind of leapfrogging. So this is where Melody's story comes in, and she'll give us all the tips and tricks of getting promoted.
There's a lot of different ways that you can grow in your career. You can leapfrog. So what that means is going to another job. Typically, obviously, you get a pay raise. Let's say that's around, we like to target 20% increase. That's always great. And then you always want to go for a higher title, typically.
And you can also negotiate packages when you leapfrog too. So if you don't get a full package, you can do bonuses, other benefits.
I bring the perspective of working in the tech space. Mao is in the medical
devices.
Medical devices.
Yeah.
We have different experiences. I feel like the packages are slightly different. Cultures slightly different.
Which is interesting because I think tech has more of a blunt culture versus med devices. There might be some nuances of how you approach, some personalities, some tonnage that you got to be careful of.
Yeah, very different dynamics with the people that you work for. In tech, it's kind of everyone's contributing. Whoever provides the highest value is really recognized. I feel like medical space, there's a little bit more of that prestige hierarchy embedded.
Definitely, like experience, length of your position, who knows who.
Right. There's the hierarchy of experience that has a little bit more weight. I guess I'll start off with talking about my journey in my career. I've been in 3 different companies, and at each company I've been promoted within the role. So going to my first job out of college, I was doing more project management on a finance team. I had a really good relationship with my manager. We were really close, and that was before COVID happened. So we were in the office every day. I was working very closely with her. So naturally, you just get a lot of high visibility. So that was a much smaller organization, only about 60 people. So I worked directly with the CFO and was able to build a relationship with her. She advocated a lot for me, and I was able to get a raise from systems analyst to like a senior analyst.
Was it through like a performance review, or was it very natural progression?
It was a natural progression there. So since it was such a small company, they didn't have a traditional performance cycle.
Yeah.
It was more like merit-based. Like she chose to give me a promotion because that's just kind of what you did when you did the year increase. Okay. So that was less strategic. It was more so you did your year and like you get promoted to a senior type of thing.
Okay.
I think having that relationship with my manager really helped in the percentage of salary increase I got. I didn't get a bonus. I think it was just a base, if I'm remembering properly. From there, that's actually when I started my MBA, and a big shift I made was taking the risk to change from a full-time role into a graduate internship. But I knew through my MBA program I wanted to pivot into product management or product marketing. I was kind of looking into tech companies more broadly. That's how I got into cybersecurity. And my internship started.
So was your internship higher paying than your original job?
No, it was a pay cut.
Did you feel discouraged, or did you know there was potential?
No, because I fully knew and I was determined to get a full-time offer. But I was really focused on getting product marketing or product management specifically, and those are really hard to get into entry level. Like typically you have to have experience. So that was my grind throughout my internship. I was really focused on networking, building those relationships, and being able to get a full-time role. I started as an associate product marketing manager for my internship.
Okay.
So that's somewhat of a promotion. 2 years was my time there. I was promoted from associate manager to product marketing manager. I had to do a lot of for that.
Oh God.
I just did a lot more schmoozing in the way where I was very strategic about what projects I took, who I worked with, making sure that I was highly visible. And especially when you're at earlier points in your career, it is the time where you put yourself out there, you take as many projects as you can, you try and offer help to as many teams as you can and get that exposure and get your name out there so you have that visibility.
What kind of projects did you pick and choose?
I noticed that, for example, we needed to have like a website refresh. So then I identified that as an issue and said, hey, this is an area of opportunity for us. I would love to work on this website project. So that was something that I sought out and brought up to my manager or my skip level and said, hey, I would love to work on this. And they either said like, yeah, great idea, or no, like priorities in a different area. Other projects were just through nature of my role. I had a lot of high visibility in big product launches that we had. So executing really well through those product launches, making sure all your stakeholders that you're working with know you have good quality work, ensure that your deliverables are on time, be pleasant to work with. You can do good work and work really hard, but at the end of the day, if people don't like working with you, they're not going to like advocate for you or promote you, right? People really care about how you make them feel in relationships more than is this person working hard.
How did you act mature? Or was that like a strategic way of trying to act older in a team of like 30 to 40-year-olds?
Right.
So you're respected and not looked as a child.
I don't know if this played a role in it, but I feel like I always dress very put together whenever I was in the office.
Optics.
There is a piece of optics in the way that you present yourself. So that's appearance-wise, just like being put together, looking a little bit more composed. Also in the way that you speak, if you structure your ideas well, if you speak clearly, if you enunciate, you have confidence in your voice and your ideas and contribute, I think that also shows a sign of maturity. A piece of being younger is also knowing your place. You don't always want to give an idea all the time and like contribute all the time.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a room with a bunch of executives. When you're among your peers, you can really stand out and shine and give your ideas, and it's a very collaborative environment. But then when you're around executives, state your opinion at the appropriate moment, but otherwise, you know, what they say kind of goes type of thing.
Yeah.
Ask good questions. Yeah. Ask good questions. I think they appreciate questions, but they have way more context than you oftentimes. So I would never really challenge them too much.
Okay, let's get to the juicy part where you come into her newest job and then how she got promoted most recently to senior product marketing.
For this role, when I moved into this position, I was still a product marketing manager. I knew I wanted to get to director as soon as possible, and what's the stepping stone to director is senior manager. So I was very clear about that when I went into the organization, and I actually was recruited by someone that I worked with at my previous company. So they had already known me, known my work ethic, and were really a big advocate for me. But what really sucked is that they ended up leaving the company after like 3 months of me starting. So that's kind of a ding, because when you have someone automatically advocating for you, that's like the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Especially if it's your manager. Like they're the ones who are going to have the conversations on your behalf. So you want to have a good relationship with them, and you want them to be someone who's able to really advocate for you, like push back and say that you do good work, right? So I was really worried when my manager left of like who my next manager would be, and I have to essentially make another new impression and like prove myself again,
relationships,
which is always so hard. Luckily, one, I had a relationship with my skip level, which is my manager's manager. Yeah, your manager's the one who says if you get a promotion or not, but who does the approval? Who are other people who have input? You never know what conversations are happening in rooms that you're not a part of.
Yes.
So having as much exposure across the organization, even in areas of the business that you never think really would cross paths, you know, that's never a bad thing. Luckily, my new manager was super cool. It was her first time being a people manager. I was helping her develop while she was kind of helping me develop. But then she ended up leaving again. So I had like a switch in managers. So it ended up that my skip level manager became my direct manager. Through all those manager changes, I was always sure to be very transparent with my skip level, who then became my manager, about these are all the projects that I've worked on. This is where I'm heading. I was very clear about my goal. I flat out said, like, I want to be director as soon as possible. How can we get there? And I think outlining specific tactics and projects made it so that essentially it's written in stone. Like, oh, we had this discussion. You email them after and say, hey, it was so good to have this discussion with you. I know we discussed XYZ areas to grow into this whatever director role or senior manager role, looking forward to like working on these projects together. As you go and you show that you've committed, check each thing off the list. You come back and say, hey, I know we had this discussion. I achieved all of this. Can we talk about that promotion. They literally essentially promised you, like, once you do all this, you'll get it. It's really hard for them to go back and be like, oh, but you didn't achieve this. You don't want any ambiguity because people can really take advantage of that ambiguity.
2 things. I want to know what your thoughts are to be the most liked by your manager. If your manager has multiple of subordinates, how do you stand out? And then the second one is that what if your manager doesn't like structure like that? What if it's like a more soft relationship and you don't want to do this like ABC, we talked about this, and then in the future I want to go back to it.
So to your first question, how can you be the most liked out of your whole team? I always live by the rule, and even if I think about myself as a manager, I'm gonna like my team member that makes my life the easiest. And if I make my manager have an easy life and look good, like he's gonna love me for that. For example, if I'm having a challenge, I can go to my manager and say, hey, this is the situation. I thought about it and this is how I would approach it. What do you think? So you're more so soliciting feedback as a mentor rather than going to them and dumping a problem on them and saying, help me fix this. And then make them look good. So how do you do that? By executing on what you promise and making sure all the activities you're doing are aligning towards the strategic marketing objectives. Know what balls you can drop, right? But if it's part of a launch, you want to make sure everything is executed perfectly. It gets a lot of visibility. People are like, wow, this was an amazing launch. Put in the extra hours on that, and that's going to make not only you look good, but your manager look good of like, wow, this whole team did a really great job executing upon this.
Do you collect all the KPIs of each task you do? As a marketer, it's really hard to track numbers like that because you're not directly tied to those sales numbers. So how do you show that you actually made business impact?
For example, writing up my performance review, I am pretty comprehensive. So I'm like, oh, I created this blog. This blog had a reach or got picked up by these different PR channels. I'll throw those easy numbers in there, but actual pipeline dollars is slightly harder.
Because you can't own them either. Right?
Yeah, but you can say that you influence them. So what you can also do is from your product managers, since they more own the numbers, at least at my company, I can just ask them like, hey, what's the revenue growth that we've seen? Or have we seen an uptick in our attach rate or revenue? And I can say, okay, this is the amount of revenue that has increased. I was an influencer in that.
Right.
So you don't have to say like, I did all this directly. You are an influencer at the end of the day. You're creating your launch material and working with the team is essentially helping to reach those numbers.
I've only wrote a performance review like once in my whole career, which is crazy. Either it was like automatically promotion or they didn't really require me to. And it was so hard when I don't have each number recorded after each thing I do.
Yeah.
So I would recommend to always ask for the performance and follow up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would say track as you go because 6 months down the line, you're going to forget everything that you did.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you'll have this great list of everything that you do, and you straight up hand that to your manager and say, hey, I know you need to essentially substantiate why I deserve a promotion. This is all the proof about why you need to do that. That's going to be so easy for them. That's like if someone asks you for a referral, you always have to write that blurb about why you recommend them. I would always provide someone with a blurb about why they recommend me so they can just easily put the referral through.
Let me take a sip of water because that was a lot of information, Melody.
I feel like I'm talking this whole time. But I think there were some good career nuggets in there. I actually have a good story to tell of something that I found very surprising to me in my journey of promotion. We have a mentorship program. So I was paired up with this guy who was on the people team. And initially I was like, ugh, like, he's not really in the product marketing function. I don't know how much he's going to really be able to help me through my career, whether it be promotion or not, just like help me. And that mentorship and that connection actually helped me so much with negotiating in my promotion to senior manager because he was able to tell me all the salary band information and what I could potentially ask for. And he gave me context into the politics of if we're hiring, how we're growing, when people leave, where they go, like how you can negotiate properly, what to expect from, you know, if you're getting more equity from the board of directors. Never take anyone for granted. Build those connections. You never know who will be able to help you by either giving you information, telling you about a role or opportunity that you didn't know about but could be a good career step. Those connections will take you really far in your career because even when they leave, you'll still have that relationship and then maybe they can hire you at another job or something. So
do you think it's taboo to ask about a salary band to your manager?
I don't know if this is the US in totality, but I think in California, they legally have to give you your salary band.
For a job description.
For your own job description, not other people's.
Right.
So if you say, oh, I'm a product marketing manager, can you give me the band? They'll give you what is called 0.8 to 1.2. So it's like 80% to 120% of the band. Typically, people fall around there. What can happen sometimes is if you get hired at too high of a salary, when it comes up to a promotion period in 6 months or a year, they don't have that much room to give you more money, but they also can't promote you yet because you haven't been there long enough. So some people get really shafted in that because you basically get like very minimal increase because you're already too high for your role band, but you're not ready to be promoted. Right. So that can actually hurt you when you go into a role, and that's why leveling your title, what you get paid is really important from like the back end of things. It actually affects a lot of your growth path. So when you get hired, typically HR will try and get you maybe at the low end or at max the mid of the band.
Yes.
So you still have some room to grow.
So mentorship is also interesting because in my first role in a different company, I had to have a mentor. So every 6 months,
What do you mean you had to have a mentor?
Like I had to have one-on-ones with a new mentor every 6 months, and they would be my mentor for that 6-month period. And it would be either bi-weekly check-ins or monthly check-ins. And I would get so nervous for these mentor meetings because I didn't know what the hell I was going to ask.
Right.
And as an entry-level person or like a new grad, I don't even know like what mentorship is supposed to entail. And if you're so low on the structure of that company, I mean, mentorship, they're not going to give you that name calling in the executive group yet. It's like still very far from where you are in the company. So what was your experience with your mentors? Not now, but in the beginning, earlier.
Oh, in the beginning.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I was very clear about this is the growth that I want. How did you get there? So it's just
always growth based.
That was what mine was. Obviously, there's establishing personal relationships too and hearing from their experience. So just genuinely being interested in what were your past experiences, even especially being early in career, asking about different roles. Like, oh, I see you've been in an operations role.
Yeah.
I've seen you've been in a marketing role. Can you tell me about them? How are they different? Why did you pivot into this new job? Just understanding people's experience, I think, is really valuable because you're just trying to learn about what direction you want to go.
I'll be devil's advocate for mentorship because I ask the same questions and usually it's the same answers.
Like what?
It's always the corporate answers. Oh, you got to speak up in these meetings. Oh, you got to have visibility. Oh, it's good to manage up, also manage down, like be cross-functional. I'm like, okay, it's the same thing over and over, which is kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I get that. I do think, though, that it's the same thing over and over because that's the recipe. If you want to make it a little bit more interesting, I think you can ask if they say, oh, you need to get visibility. Say, oh, can you tell me about a time that you have been able to make yourself visible? What were the projects that you had that made yourself most visible? How, if you were in my shoes, what projects would you take? Or how would you make yourself more visible? There are so many follow-up questions that you can have to that, and everyone will have a unique answer.
Also, I just thought about this, but I would ask if I had a mentor right now, how would you make this project that I did sound sparkly in your words?
Yeah.
Like, what would be the talk track to make it not just a small task that I did, but like big and grand?
Yeah. I think that's a great question.
That would be a cool question to ask.
And that ties back to getting promoted too. Having that visibility across the organization. I think a lot of mentors will be able to tell you how you can get that because it is a political.
So I think like visibility, I kind of hate and love that word because it's like, what is it actually? And tactically, like, what is it? And it's such a fine line of being braggy versus being strategic and looking like you're helping people, but actually you're putting yourself in front of everyone. And I can clock it when people are doing that. I mean, you have to really be your advocate for yourself, but humbly. Yeah. Humbly brag.
That is so true. Like when people send out a big email of a project and they're like, thank you so much to this, and this team, and then best your name, and people are like, okay, you're thanking all these teams. That means this person owned this whole project and worked with all these people.
Exactly.
So yes, and recognizing others is a really good quality of a leader or someone who's owned something too. So that also reflects positively on you.
Yeah. It's always great to shout out people in big meetings and emails. If you receive a great email, you can respond back to them, CCing their boss. It's like
that is always a really great thing to do. This topic reminded me of a TikTok that I watched that was talking about American culture versus European culture and why a lot of foreign, not even European, just like foreign people struggle in the American corporate setting is because they are not good at self-promotion. because a lot of times it is very organizationally group driven in a lot of cultures, and it's not very individualistic like it is in America. And we're very good at self-promoting.
I agree. And we've been taught from a young age to self-promote. I mean, when we're growing up, we're doing presentations, we're doing leadership skill activities and stuff. But I think in Europe and also in Asia, it's very collaborative. Europe, it's not all about work, it's about life too. So it's hard. It's really hard to advocate for yourself. So I was in a German company in my first job, and it was in Asia. So I mean,
that's like double layered culture.
It was very double layered. It's very hierarchical. It was very stoic. Like, you don't really brag.
Yeah.
Like, at all.
Your growth path was so stunted there.
It was stunted. I mean, I was this trainee. I wouldn't call it an intern because I was a full-time employee.
It's like a rotational
program. And then you automatically got upgraded into an assistant manager role, which was awesome. But I wouldn't really call that a promotion.
It's a promotion. Like, you graduate out of the program.
Yeah. So that was nice because I really didn't have to do much to that. Obviously, I had to go through rounds of interviews to get that assistant manager role that I wanted, but it was honestly not that bad. In Asia, it's all about experience and hierarchy. It's not about visibility. It's not about which projects you're a part of.
Right.
Obviously, that feeds in, but it's more about experience. And then European culture, I mean, I think it's pretty much soft skills.
Like being a chill person.
Being a chill person.
You a chiller.
Like, the more chill you are, the more liked.
But you have to get your work done and be chill.
I don't know.
If you're in Europe, make sure you're chill. Be nonchalant. Nonchalant. Only nonchalant.
That industry was merchandising or retail or fashion. So maybe that fed into the culture a little bit.
Totally.
Being chill, having that cool personality, being charismatic. Charismatic goes for every industry, but a lot more probably in fashion. So in gaming, you ought to be also chill, but also extremely nerdy and passionate. Yeah. Passionate about games. If you're not, then you're already in this other group of, oh, you're a non-gamer.
Which, were you a gamer?
No.
Okay.
But I did love the brand. I wasn't passionate enough.
I did want to talk about one last thing in regards to promotions.
Yes.
And that is negotiating your increase. So I feel like there has been situations where I've had the opportunity to negotiate, and there's opportunities where I have not. Oftentimes, if it is just during the normal cycle performance, it is at will of your manager, and they just give you whatever they can. Like, they just decide. And the only time I've really been able to influence that heavily has been in this promotion, because I had these conversations so far in advance and very clearly expressed what I wanted. And I think maybe this was unique also in the sense that when my manager left, it did give me a lot more leverage to say, hey, I'm taking on this extra scope. This is what I'm expecting, and this is the path that I want to go as far as salary, bonus, and equity goes. And I actually was able to get an out-of-cycle equity boost, which is not even part of my promotion, but I got additional equity because I took that negotiation opportunity when my manager left. So there's a lot of levers you can pull if you're proactive about it. And I like to say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Like, at the end of the day, your manager is going to reward the people who not only deserve it the most, but who are also the most freaking annoying about it and bothering them all the time. Because if you're not talking about it, they're going to assume that either you don't care or they can get away with not giving you that much because you haven't expressed what you wanted.
Just ask.
Just ask. Literally just ask.
In tech.
Not for you. In tech.
I believe this for the longest time. But then going into a different industry, it could ruin relationships if you're constantly asking for it, if they get annoyed. And that, I thought that was a very old school mentality, but I think it is very true for some managers or some leadership there that they don't want you constantly up their business about wanting a promotion. It's like, okay, do your hard work and you'll earn it. And that's kind of the hard-headed mentality that I've seen across some industries.
Let me clarify what I mean by you bring it up every time. It's not like every one-on-one I go into with my manager, I'm like, I need to get promoted. I'm going to go to senior manager. Like, how am I going to get promoted? that is not the conversation. It's more so the underlying growth conversation that implies the promotion. So it's more so, do you have any feedback for me? Am I working on high visibility projects? Is there any areas of growth that you see for me that I can improve? It's always, you're not being like, can I get the promotion every time? You're more talking about the things that surround that, okay, if you get the feedback, you work on it, you get these projects, you do well, that promotion will come.
Right.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Would you have that conversation with other teammates in the room? Or is it always going to be very private conversations?
Always private, I think. I'm very much... It's so hard because your coworkers are your friends and you care about them and you want the best for everyone. And I'm not saying it's a competition on the team, but remember, your manager only gets one pile of money. He has to split across however many team members. So, yeah, you're up against them. They are your competition.
That is so sad.
It is sad. But that doesn't mean you won't root for them to win. Like, I would love for my coworker to get a promotion as well.
Right.
If that means that I'm
win.
still getting a promotion. We can all win.
Yeah.
But
someone can win more.
Someone can win more. And technically, if you're giving someone more, that means you may be giving someone else less.
Less, yes.
So.
And if you're getting less, then leapfrog.
Right. So if you're not happy with what you're getting, leaving the company typically will always give you more money. I'd hope that you have at least a 20% boost. So I will say, even if you do everything right, you work hard, you build the relationships, you're very visible, sometimes you're just going to get blocked because of structure. And that is a part of it that is a little bit hard to navigate. You can have those discussions with your manager if you trust them, or people across the organization to see how you can potentially get around that, get moved to another team or something like that. But yeah, sometimes you'll run into that barrier and you'll just have to stick around and deal with it, or hope someone leaves, or you have to move companies.
One thing I wanted to mention is remote versus in-office jobs. Remote, you can't be shy. You got to make those one-on-ones happen. You got to make those touch bases or syncs, the alignment calls, like whatever you're going to call them, happen with your managers, definitely. Mm-hmm. But in office, sometimes that could be too much structure. So you just knock on their door, or you just open their door and kind of talk to them casually, sneak in what you're doing, sneak in some updates and leave. And I think that's sufficient.
Yeah,
for some companies.
Also, if you're in person, I mean, even virtual, you should become, not friends, but you should be friendly with your manager. You should care about their life. They should care about your life. Again, it goes back to you want to be
Do you actually care about their lives? I do.
Okay.
I do.
So, for example, what I mean by this is if my manager says, oh, I'm going to tour colleges with my son, or my manager goes, oh, I'm moving houses. Following up on that shows that you care to remember and that you're a thoughtful person, and I think that goes far.
I don't know what's real and what's fake anymore, guys. In corporate, everything is so fake.
It's all a facade.
No one gives a shit about each other. Everyone's just cutting other people's throats so they can get more money, and at the end of the day, you're all alone. This is why you should move to Europe.
Thank you for your TED Talk, Malabuchi. I love how you're living in America in SF, which is the hustle of
I just want to say, tangent, SF is insane. I mean, like, you were also saying that when you travel, you can feel that it's like not work. Work isn't the center of the centrifuge.
Right.
But in SF, literally your whole life is work, and I'm like, how? How do people live here until you're 40?
Because it's such a part of their identity. And I think people are truly passionate.
I think you'll die young if you live like this for another 40 years. Like, you'll die young. So a few small things I want to touch on are appearances and just superficial stuff. So do you lower your voice when you present?
I think I do so unintentionally, just in my corporate speak.
Sometimes I tell a joke, and I'm like, how did the chicken cross the street?
Sorry? having a lower octave of tone does command more authority.
Lower octave, slower speaking, enunciating, and smiling with your teeth, upper teeth.
Like that?
Talking like this, talking like this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's just showing energy.
Energy.
We have
It's
energy.
big.
I think that people like pretty people and will want to uplift pretty people. This is such a hot take, but especially in a male-dominated industry, if people are going to give you extra attention because of your looks, take advantage of that. Be like, I've had people come up to me. Again, I don't know if this is for, I'm sure I am a great worker and a great presenter, but they will come up to me and like, you presented so great, rave about it, and then go tell my manager and be like, Melody was so great. I'm sure that I did present well, but I also know that they are attracted to me. So that's why they're promoting me.
No, that's very true. And I think being sensual is a play of dominance for women.
It makes me feel like Cleopatra.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you say sensual, and when I think of sensual, it's not the cute, the girly, the flirty. I mean, flirty, yes, but not the girly part. It's more womanly flirt, which is very powerful.
Dominating.
Dominating. A dominatrix. So I think on my side, I try to be whatever sensual, but then I just have a very girly rabbit vibes.
Right.
And I do a lot of hand gestures, and my favorite one is this, praying.
Uh-huh.
So I'm always like, thank you, or like, yes, or something.
That is
awesome. So I think they're like, bro, what's going?
Take advantage of if men think you're cute. Be like, if you think I'm so cute, tell my manager to give me a promotion.
That's what I do. I do that.
I mean, you don't have to directly say that, but you know, the underlying tonage. I hope that was helpful. I feel like I had some good nuggets in there, maybe rambled a bit, but that was my experience. I don't want to say lucky because I believe luck, my dad always says this, luck is when preparedness meets opportunity.
So how do you stay ready?
I don't know, just like ready for things to come to you. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you get promoted and we love you.